And if you look at the Brussels, at the EU structure, we have a very, very aggressive commissioner, as those of you in the telecom industry will know, Mrs. Cruz, who had been the competition commissioner. But it's sort of just another issue. It's just another policy. And you have all these policy chimneys, and you can't get the policy system to deal with this the way it needs to be dealt with, which is as a horizontal, totally horizontal, societal and economic challenge. This is not optional. This is where the world is going. We had an interesting fellow last night in Buckinghamshire, a young Indian, who has a business here and has already sold a business. What is he? He's probably 30 years old, maybe not even.
He's old for a billionaire.
Yeah. And he was saying, I go back to India, and all my young friends look at my phone and everything I've got, and they think I'm a Neanderthal. And then they come here and they can't get connectivity, and they think, this part of the world is brain dead. And keep in mind that India has millions of these guys, and they're not the only ones. There are many others. Brazil, these people, this point about the young generation is the real point. Are we going to give them the tools? They'll go where these tools and networks are. So, let me not lose my train of thought here. We got to mobilize somehow more than just the demand side and the few who seem to have been given the responsibility to do something about this, so that there is political courage in this, because beyond just the governmental decision that this is the priority, this must be the priority where infrastructure spending is concerned. It's going to take courage downstream, because it's not only transformational technology, it's extremely disruptive technology. So when you really begin to apply it, you really begin to touch very, very sensitive political nerves, because you're talking about efficiencies, basically. I did a piece of work with Digital Europe, which is the supply-side lobby in Brussels for a lot of the digital sector. All the big network equipment guys, Alcatel, Lucent, Ericsson, Nokia, Siemens, and others, the software industry for the most part. And what we did there was focus on the downstream stories and try to show exactly how significant and how fundamental this was to the future of the energy sector. What did we do? The manufacturing sector, healthcare sector, logistics and transport, and a personal empowerment section. But one thing we also focused on was where this all fits in the bigger picture of the future of this part of the world. And I think you could include the U.S. in this, although not quite the same demographics. But what is the significance of this technology from a political point of view in these aging societies where suddenly the welfare state looks unaffordable? And there you come to some very, very simple conclusions the more you look at this. The only way that the social net can be really maintained, and I'm talking here about Social Security, pensions, unemployment, health care, the whole social thing, you need more people working, and you need more people working longer. People are getting older. We can't support these high unemployment levels, and especially these early retirement ages anymore. So what is the answer to that? The answer to that is this technology, because this technology allows for that. This technology will allow people to be more productive longer. Now, can you prove it? Yeah, there's data coming, but there is no other answer. Then you look at the healthcare sector, which is part of this sort of the legacy of Bismarck, and there again you see that the only way you're going to be able to deal with increasing demand from an aging population is by using this technology to change not just the back room, but the actual paradigm of care and of preventive care. And there are some very, very, very important organizations out there in the world that are beginning to move rapidly in that direction. But as you well know in this country, if you really want to do it, you're up against some pretty tough political opposition if you want to bring real efficiencies into something like your national health care service. But it can be done. I know you had a big disaster in the medical records space here, but one of my clients, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, has quite successfully installed electronic medical records in at least 2 NHS hospitals groups, one in Newcastle and another, I think, at Birmingham. This works because they themselves created it. They didn't buy it from a vendor. They had partnered. They partnered with IBM and others that we can imagine. But they made all the mistakes themselves. Now they're licensing the system and it works. So there's a way through all this. But, you know, it takes determination. And it takes determination, especially at the political level now, because we're talking, of course, about money, but we're also talking about just the raw courage to say we're going to go in a certain direction and deal with these consequences. But it's hard because this is real revolution. This is a new civilization, as I think has been alluded to. You know, you could say, you know, Gutenberg changed the world, and electricity, steam power changed the world, and electricity changed the world, and now this is changing the world. And it's a real knowledge. It's a real knowledge phenomenon because there's nothing you can't know in this world. If you want to go build a plant to produce auto parts somewhere in the world, there are plenty of people out there who know how to do that. and there are plenty of people out there who are willing to finance it. So there is nothing stable in this. There's just connectivity. And not just in the physical sense, but in the real human sense. You know, connecting brain power to brain power, and you get things that nobody could have conceived. So, forgive me, I'm getting a little bit evangelistic here. Let me just bring you back to the European framework. We're struggling here, there, as well as you are here, to fight through not just the understanding that the first step in all of this is the infrastructure. Otherwise, you can't play. It's the price of admission to this game. And then how you create the incentives to get what that infrastructure should be, and then how you get the incentives right through essentially through regulation and or some sort of public investment. And of course, this is a complex question, as you heard this morning. It's a complex question even if you got a lot of money. It's even more complex if you don't. The targets of the European Union as adopted through the European Union policy process, for what that is worth, but okay, it's a framework with a certain impact. And we're talking here about households at the moment, which is a bit, it's not the whole story, of course. By 2020, 50% of all European households at 100 megabits. And everybody at 30. Now, let's just talk about the households for a minute. And of course, you know, if just the business world is connected, that doesn't really get you all the way there because you need the market to be connected if it's consumer products. And even if it's not, you need people who can do something productive to be linked in some way to the world, even if they're sitting at home, as we know. So it's an important piece of it. Actually, in a lot of Europe, especially the densely populated parts of Europe, like Belgium, you have got coaxial cable into just about every house in Brussels, in Belgium, let's say. I have 80 meg now in my connection through my TV cable. And it'll probably go above. Here at Virgin Media, I think, are delivering 100 and may go to 150. Over 50% of all European households are passed by a coax cable. This is the great untold story of broadband in many parts of Europe where households are concerned. And the cable industry is investing in the upgrade of these networks with no public subsidy. And the reason is they got a monopoly on those connections.